We are back on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati. Lindsay Patterson, Mike Santagata here. Mike, we were recording on Friday Eve. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, it's the only time I ever care about baseball, so I'm kind of keeping this in the corner of
Yeah.
my screen, not watching anything, but just putting the score up. But am like a lightweight Guardians fan. I know you're a Reds fan. I would root for any team that was local and good. But it just turns out that only the Cleveland Guardians. I would root for the Pirates. I would root for the Reds. They stink. They just they never get through this.
No.
So it's just the Guardians that I end up rooting for. They're winning right now against the Yankees. That could come back to haunt me, but I refused to watch it after watching games 1 and 2, and they lost. So I'm just gonna let the score go. Maybe it's like the bottom of the ninth. I'll tune in, but until then,
I, I don't think I've ever said this on this podcast, but I am one of those people. It's crazy because I'll go to these Bengals games and I'll watch them and be a nervous wreck. But for the AFC Championship game, the first time the Bengals played the Chiefs, they were obviously losing in the first quarter. And I thought that they were probably going to lose by 30 just the way the first quarter went or first half went. So I went upstairs because I was watching it with my family and I watched the second half of the AFC Championship game on the ESPN app where the little football logo goes from one field to the
yeah.
other because I was that nervous. And every time they scored to come back, I was like, I can't move. I have to stay right here and watch the second half on my phone. So I've always kind of been one of those people where if I get nervous, I turn the game off and I watch it from my phone. It's the only way I can do it. I don't know why. Just how
One
I.
quick question for you, as a Reds fan, not in person, just in general. How many games do you watch a year? Because there's no way anybody watches all 160 something.
So early on, I'm watching all the time.
Oh
And so
wow.
I live downtown, and it's very easy just to go down to watch some of the games during the weeknights. So in the first few months, I watched a lot of the baseball. But if they're out of it in the season, they're struggling, I probably won't turn it on unless I'm at a place where the game is on. So they lose me really fast, even though the season is long. But the first few months, I'm watching the games. I'm into it. I'm like, let's go. Obviously, opening day is an unofficial holiday in Cincinnati. But if they start to lose, I'm done. Like I'll just see the score, the box score in the morning, and to see if they won.
Okay, that makes sense. I just don't know how would the only sport I watch everything of is football. Like I'm a big Cavs fan, basketball fan, and I can't get up for all 82 games. I watch a game, I get upset that they lost like 2% of
Yeah.
less than 2% of the games this year. Like in baseball, it'd be even worse. You're getting upset about them losing a game. It's like less than 1% of the season. I couldn't imagine it. But I don't know. I usually just catch big basketball games. I'll catch like Cavs games every year. I go to a game every year, at least one. But yeah, with baseball, I just don't care whatsoever until it's playoff time. I might watch a game opening day.
Mhm.
They play when there's no sports on too. So like summertime, if it's on, nothing else is going on, I'll tune in. I love going to games. That's my biggest issue. Is that like I love going to a game. It doesn't feel like it takes forever when you're watching on TV. Sometimes that thing lags and lags. Like the pitch clock helps the TV watching process, but it hurts the going to the game process because then it feels like I missed some things when I go get a hot dog. But anyway, that's enough talk.
I,
As
I
of
feel
now,
you.
Guardian's still up.
I'm hoping Terry Francona can bring playoff baseball
He
back to.
was great. He was great in Cleveland. Almost won them a World Series.
I'm hoping there's a lot of youth in Cincinnati. But you mentioned Cleveland, and speaking of Cleveland, that is the opponent this week for the
Oh yeah,
Cincinnati
I think
Bengals.
I'm the
You know,
enemy. Huh?
we're going right through. I'm sure there are a lot of it's Ohio, so it makes sense, and there are a lot of people that
ALNL. Yeah, they're different leagues. I can't imagine. I mean, I guess
I don't think
the
it's much of a
Guardians
rivalry.
the Guardians did do that stupid Cincinnati's and Kentucky thing, but other than that, I can't imagine there's much going on there between those two.
There's not. Some would
It's
say
probably more
well,
sacrilegious that I'd root for the Pirates and the Reds together.
one
I don't really care who's good.
or the Cardinals or something like that.
Oh, I don't root for the Cardinals. Even I am like, yeah, they're kind of the scum.
Yeah. So we know we're on the same page, but I agree. I don't really feel like there's much of a rivalry there, and a lot of people don't want the Yankees to win. So we'll see. We'll see how it
Yeah.
looks at the end. But the Cincinnati Bengals they play the Cleveland Browns, and it's like, where do you start when you think of this matchup? One of the things even Joe Burrow has said he hasn't won in Cleveland. They've struggled against the Browns. It has been a total mismatch when you think of these two teams facing each other. Obviously, the Browns are struggling. They're 1-5 on the season. The Bengals They're off to a not great start at 2-4 on the season. Second AFC North game they need this year. If they want to turn this season around, this is the time to do it. The thing is, I want to look at the Cleveland Browns defense first, because that's what this team has really struggled with. When you think about the Bengals and slow starts, you think, oh, if you could run the ball versus Cleveland. Even when Joe Burrow had his calf injury, it wasn't something that they did, which was so questionable from the Bengals week 1 game of last year. But this time they have a little bit of a running game with Chase Brown and Zach Moss. Joe Burrow talked to the media and said he feels good about their run game going into this matchup versus the Cleveland defense. But one of the things, or a couple of things, that will always scare me is the Browns defense. They still have Myles Garrett out there. I believe in their secondary. When it comes to matchups with the Bengals wide receivers, it should be a pretty good AFC North battle. But for me, when you look at how the Bengals offense is rolling, despite the Giants game, it felt a little conservative and they really couldn't do a whole lot. But hey, that's credit to the Giants defense. The Bengals will see kind of a similar pass rush with their O-line going against this defensive line. How do you feel about this matchup?
So for how Cleveland's played this year, you should feel good. But when you think about everything else that's happened in this matchup, you shouldn't feel good, right? Like, they don't really. The only time they've had good offensive games against Cleveland, to me, are like the Week 18 who cares games. I think of that big Joe Mixon game from like 3 years ago. Last year, they were fine on offense in that game, but they were both. Cleveland was in the playoffs, Bengals out of the playoffs, and before that, I think Bengals out of the playoffs. Cleveland might have been in the playoffs that year. Was that the year that Ben Roethlisberger got embarrassed at home? Or was it at home or on the road? I don't remember anything anymore. But anyway, yeah, I can't imagine feeling that confident about the Bengals offense, even if I think on paper this season, this should be an advantage for them. For some reason, and the reason I'm not that confident is, like, you could point to last year, like, yeah, but last year they were on a roll. Like, this year they're not on a roll. They stink this year on defense. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it was 2 years ago and 3 years ago. They were not good defenses, but they show up for this Bengals game for whatever reason. Even if the defense stinks, it doesn't look like they're into these games at all. Only Myles Garrett is playing well. All of those corners wake up. The defensive backs wake up. The entire team wakes up for these Bengals games. I don't know, Battle of Ohio, they love having this like winning record against the Bengals or something.
We hear about it.
I just know like they love playing in this game. So I do not expect them to come out like lifeless or anything. The offense, different story, but that defense I think is going to be ready. And really, I know Ja'Marr Chase said it's one of the best defensive backs we face other than Baltimore or something. Like, God, just like this, cut the sentence off. Just say one of the best. You don't need to then add like the little bit of the backhand to the compliment. It's like, just give them a compliment. Because to me, when I watch, it's the team that plays these wide receivers the best. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the best defensive back group because they don't have a Kyle Hamilton safety, but they've got the best corners. I mean, Marlon Humphrey's great. They've got 3 guys in Cleveland that are physical, that will match these Bengals receivers in physicality. They will actually bully these Bengals receivers at times. It's impressive what Martin Emerson and Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome do in these games. They get up, they play extremely well. It's one of the best performances you'll see from defensive backs every year. I hope the Bengals win this one. I think week 1 last year, there were opportunities, and Burrow was just playing really bad. So calf not related at times. I think he also got rattled, but it was like that early season Burrow just has no feel for the timing and the rhythm of everything. We'll see. I think there's cracks in this armor. You could see how this works, and the Bengals have a great offensive day, even from the days that Cleveland had a great defense. This year, you could obviously point to them not playing very great defense. I think it's been better than you'd think. It's just the offense is so bad. I mean, one of their defenders has more touchdowns than any offensive player that is currently on the team. So that's impressive. But, yeah, I think this defense is going to play well. And that's going to be frustrating. I think the Bengals wide receivers are in for a big matchup. And I'd love for them to finally get a decisive victory in this matchup.
Yeah, and when you think about the matchups with the cornerbacks and the Bengals wide receiver, you're going to have Ja'Marr Chase. They're going to be smart with Ja'Marr Chase. They're going to be smart with T. Higgins. Yoshi has been their wide receiver 3 for Joe Burrow. Do you think it could be a game? Obviously, they do want to establish a run game. That would be huge going against the Cleveland Browns, and to be able to do that and see that production from Chase Brown and Zach Moss, and maybe Chase Brown gets more of the carries. But do you see another weapon in this Bengals offense who could possibly be a factor in this game outside of the running backs and those three wide receivers?
Yeah, you talk about. I, I think I think the tight ends could. I think if there was a Mike Gesicki game, it could be this one. When you think about all the single coverage they play, you think about how Mike Gesicki wins, and you think about what I mentioned. All the corners are really good. I think Grant Delpit's pretty good, but
Mhm.
if it ends up being um, goodness, Juan Thornhill or one of these linebackers trying to defend Gesicki, I take Gesicki in that matchup. And even against Delpit, I would trust that he might be able to win those matchups. So you think about that matchup. I would trust Eric All if he had a big game so far, but it feels like he's just the auxiliary. Like he just is in the background a little bit. So I don't project a big Mike Gesicki game, but I think it would be possible that he has a good game, just considering how the Browns like to play. Um, and it's tough for tight ends to win these one-on-one matchups a lot of times, man coverage, but at the same time, that's what Gesicki's here to do. I mean, he got paid to be a pass catcher that is a difference maker. As a pass catcher, I don't know how often we're going to see him. It feels like he is tight end 2/3 by snaps. Like Eric All is tight end 1. And then whether they want to run the ball or pass the ball is whether you see more Drew Sample or Mike Gesicki. So I think that would be the sneaky one of if you're going to pick somebody who's not Jamar Chase or T Higgins and not one of the running backs, I would go with Gesicki over Yosivas. Even though Yosivas has been good, I just think if they are going to single up play man coverage, like these corners are nothing to mess with in terms of like Yosivas has had his games, but it would be very impressive to me if Yosivas has a big game and he's going up single coverage against like a Greg Newsome.
I just hope they put Jamar Chase all over the field. Do
Yeah.
different things, be creative with this offense. I know even Jamar was talking to the media today, and he's like, "I've been wanting to be in the slot since TB was here. I've been telling Zach that," and it's always kind of fun to see with this offense, and we'll be able to see if Zach changes it up. I know Joe feels good about the game plan going in, and that's just pretty much normal quarterback speak in a Wednesday press conference. I do wonder, and I hate this conversation because I feel like I just feel like Bengals fans overall are into this conversation right now when it comes to Jermaine Burton or Trent Irwin.
Oh,
I
jeez.
am I am interested to see what the activation looks like going into this week. But here's the thing: even if Jermaine Burton is activated, I don't think it's going to be the game-changing wide receiver
No.
in this offense against the Cleveland Browns in an AFC North matchup. I just don't see that happening.
The only way either one of them get run is if somebody gets hurt, and we saw that last week. Trent Irwin got a couple of snaps when T Higgins left the game. Uh, I I would rather Burton is active. I don't want people to mishear me. I
Mhm.
would rather Burton was active. I would rather they drew up a play a week for Burton. I would rather that he was on the field more. But when you look at the wide receivers outside of Higgins, Chase, and Yosivas, I mean Burton he played like 8 snaps combined over 3 weeks after he played, I think, 10 snaps against Kansas City,
Yeah.
including 1 snap the week before he was inactive. Whatever reason, and it's not like Irwin saw the field a whole bunch
No,
against the Giants. He just came onto the field when Higgins got hurt. I don't remember him on the field any other snaps. I They don't care about this fourth receiver. Like in years past, like Yosivas last year, he got some run as the fourth receiver. Um, but now, and Higgins was injured a lot last year, so maybe that could be a reason.
yeah.
But I just I don't think it makes a big difference. Like it is such a big thing with the fans that Burton needs to be active, and like I understand that from some perspective, but on the other side, like you can't get this bent out of shape to me because like these fourth receivers aren't doing anything. Like they're not on the field even. I understand it's frustrating, but that's kind of how it's been.
I feel like you could look at what even Kansas City did last year with their rookie wide receiver,
Yeah,
and
Rice didn't see the field much until halfway through the year, a little more.
We could see that similar thing. And my biggest thing is, and I get it, I agree with you. I'm going to bring up when I want to see Burton on the field, but I agree with you. Obviously, I'd rather him be activated over Trent Irwin because I do feel like he can get separation and he has the speed, and that could be huge. It was a big catch in the Kansas City Chiefs game. Obviously, they didn't win, but it really did kind of feel like momentum was on their side when he did catch that ball. But for me personally, whose snaps are you taking away? You don't want to take T. Higgins off the field. You don't want to take Jamar Chase off the field. Yoshi has brought the production at wide receiver 3.
Yoshi's been very trustworthy. That's the part of that I just think Yoshi won the job. Like that's where it really stands for me is Yoshi got the best chance. I think that's fair to say is that he got the most opportunity. Like he had the inside track in the first place. In fact, Trent Irwin probably had the second easiest role of winning that job. But I mean, he took that job and ran with it. You can complain a little bit about the middle of the field. Sometimes he doesn't catch those tough balls over the middle of the field that he's going to take a big hit. But at the same time, I mean, like crunch time, like the most important moments of games you're talking about from the 1 yard line, he's scoring touchdowns. 3rd and 12, game on the line, he's catching the ball. Joe Burrow's targeting him. There is a trust there that I don't think he has with Irwin anymore, and I don't think he has with Burton. He hasn't developed that yet. It's hard to take Iosivas off the field, and when you look at it, Iosivas is just about as athletic. It's just that Burton has a little bit more deep down the field skill. I don't think Iosivas is like stopping you from taking the top off the defense with him, though. Like he's willing to target Iosivas down the field. We've seen it multiple times against the Ravens in that 2-man situation where it got thrown over the linebacker in front of the safeties. Like there's a bunch of catches you can look back at Iosivas and be like, okay, cool. He's really stepped up in the situation. He's made more, but I think every week he at least makes one catch. And like, that's what we keep extrapolating with Burton is his one catch. It's great. I really like that he made that catch. It was an explosive play when they need an explosive play. And I think in theory, Burton could keep doing that. It's just, it hasn't translated to the field, but with Iosivas, it has. So I don't know. And I just don't think this game is going to be one that either one of these guys is really going to. I don't even think Iosivas is going to have a great game. I'd be surprised if he did. I'd be surprised if Burton makes another deep catch in this game just because this is a tough matchup for wide receivers.
Here's what I'd like to see. Then we'll move over to the defensive side of the ball. I would love, if they're going to get Burton out there, I would love to see him on special teams. You're not getting anything from Charlie Jones that's special. And it really just feels like every time that Charlie Jones is back there, I just pray, get past the 20 and have ball security. Anytime he catches the ball, that's what goes through my mind. I'm not expecting anything. My expectations are extremely low. I just want him to hold on to the ball and try and get to the 25. And that's all I need. But I would love to see Burton back there. I think that would be huge. And maybe that's something that they do down the line this season to get him on the field. But right now, I agree with you. You have those 3 receivers. Maybe it's a Gesicki game. Eric All, I'm not feeling like an Eric All game or anything like that, but he's huge when it comes to blocking. So that could be what Eric All does in this game. But for me personally, it's about establishing the run. And that's what I want to see for the first time when you're facing these guys and something that they've struggled with. Control the clock, run the ball. We'll move over to the defensive side right now. One of the things a lot of people want to point out, this Cincinnati Bengals defense, they beat a Giants team. Daniel Jones didn't have Malik Neighbors out there. Okay, whatever. It wasn't a, really productive offense. Well, Daniel Jones was playing okay football for a little bit this season. And yes, Malik Neighbors does make it. Not in that game. He did not play well in that game. I want to say that. So I want to definitely say that 10 times. Daniel Jones did not look good in that game. That's why my confidence in winning the game happened the whole entire game. Because I was like, this offense cannot do anything. If the Bengals don't win this game, this is brutal because the Giants can't do anything offensively. But I want to say, look, you move on to this game and you see how the Cleveland Browns offense is playing. I know Nick Chubb is going to be out there. To be determined on how much he is out there his first game back. But obviously he's a weapon. He's a Bengals killer. We know that. We know that he's going to be probably their best offensive player on the field if he is fully healthy. Deshaun Watson is playing really bad quarterback football, like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. A lot of people want to throw, Amari Cooper had the drops. He kind of – no. Deshaun Watson was playing bad football. His offensive line isn't super strong. the Bengals defensive line is getting healthy. They're rotating different guys out there. Will they blitz? Will they put pressure on Deshaun Watson? All that to be determined on what Lou does stack up. Will we see rotation in the safety room like we saw against the Giants with Jordan Battle out there, Von Bell, Geno Stone? What does it look like from guys like Mike Hilton, the linebacker room, and Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt? It's on those guys too. You don't want this to be a Deshaun looks good game. You really don't, for how much he struggled all season long. For me, going into this game, this should be a chance for the Bengals defense to keep that confidence that they had against the Giants and use it on the road in an AFC North matchup and show a lot of people, hey, we have talent in this room. We can figure things out. And maybe that's by rotating different guys. Maybe that's a Chris Jenkins game, and they're going to be able to stop the run with Nick Chubb and their running back room. But when you look at this Bengals defense versus Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns offense, what are you expecting?
I think that people might be thinking that this Browns offensive line is good because they've been good, the past few years. They've been pretty bad this season. I still think on paper it's not the worst unit you could imagine. It looks like Posick is probably 50-50 to play their center. Jedrick Wills got a full practice, so he'll probably be out there at left tackle. He's honestly he's played pretty well against the Bengals in his past, even if he hasn't been a very good player in his history. It's going to be nice for the Bengals that they don't have to face Wyatt Teller at right guard. It looks like you get Zach Zinter. Mm-hmm. Wyatt Teller, I think, is on IR. Yep. So it's not the greatest Browns offensive line, and even guys like Joel Bitonio have looked a little bit more mortal this season. I think a lot of this actually has to do with the quarterback. I think there's twofold here. One, quarterback runs himself into sacks. Like 4 back there. Don't need to use his name. He's running into defensive linemen, running into his own offensive lineman. He can't see the field. He has no sense of pressure. He's holding the ball forever. So he's like an offensive lineman's worst nightmare back there. To go with that, this offensive line has been that great. It's interesting. I think it's hard to predict things, but I think whoever gets matched up on the right guard has a good advantage. Like going against a rookie like Zach Zinter, I think 2 things here. I think this is the best opportunity for another BJ Hill game, because when I'm thinking, I wanted to say Sheldon Rankins, but I think what the Bengals have done is put Rankins over the offense's left side, so he'll go against Bitonio the whole game, but BJ Hill gets to go against Zach Zinter the whole game, and BJ Hill's been pretty darn good when he's played, and that includes last week, of course, but even before that, you just look at the overall stats of what BJ Hill has done this season. It's really impressive as a pass rusher. I was kind of surprised looking at those. So that's one part. I think Trey Hendrickson has an opportunity to have a good game, even if Jedrick Wills has played him good in the past. The other part is, man, that right tackle spot has not been very good for them. It is like looking at that. Sam Hubbard, Miles Murphy, one of you two. Hopefully Murphy. Get a sack. Get some pressure. I would love for this to be the Miles Murphy sack week, just because I think you have a matchup here. The thing that concerns me is just he still hasn't looked as good as he did last year so far, where it doesn't – he's slower off the ball at the moment, which makes sense with a hamstring knee – no, it's a knee. With a knee injury, makes sense. The lower body explosion isn't the exact same at the moment. Just want to see him – get a sack. Want to see him fly off the ball like he's able to with his physical ability, time things up. It'll be tough, but they've just a lot of cracks in this armor. I think the one part you could be nervous about in this game, the wide receivers are not very good. I mean, Jerry Jeudy, unrealized air yards or whatever you want to say, like that's the name of his game. He always leads the thing. He always leads in that, whether that's because he's, kind of freelancing his routes or he's dropping balls. He can't play through contact. He's such a great, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter video wide receiver, like seeing him run routes on air. But once he gets in this, I'll regret this. He's going to go for 120 yards or something. Like I said, Laviska Shenault stinks, and he kind of did. But when I said that, he had the greatest game of his career against the Bengals. I don't think Gary Judy's that great. I think he runs great routes on air. I think when it comes to playing football, he just hasn't been a great football player to go. But it's there. What I think is the guy for this offense, if anybody is going, it won't even be Nick Chubb, because everything I keep reading about Nick Chubb is they're probably easing him in. I mean, Nick Chubb could have 100 yards on 8 carries. I think David Njoku could be that guy. I think that is your issue, because you're looking at who does a tight end match up with, mostly safeties. Bengals safety's been pretty bad. Or linebackers. Bengals linebackers haven't been that great either. And I think he is more athletic than either linebacker. And I think he's probably more athletic than either safety if Battle doesn't get in there. So that's the guy I'd look at of like, if the Bengals lose this game and the Browns score over 20 points for the first time this season, it probably comes from David Njoku just dunking on them. I don't think that much of Elijah Moore. I think he's worse than Jerry Jeudy. I think Jerry Jeudy's fine. Like, I don't mean to think that Jerry Jeudy's bad. I think Jerry Jeudy is like fine. I think he's unrealized potential, and he'll always be unrealized potential. But David Njoku is pretty good. Mm-hmm. I don't care about these running backs that much. Like, Deontay Foreman actually has played pretty well every time he gets an opportunity, but it seems like nobody wants to keep giving him opportunities. I think Nick Chubb, that's dangerous, but he's probably limited to 10 or less touches, and he probably can't take over the game with that many touches, just coming off of that devastating lower body injury. So I don't know. The only guy that scored multiple touchdowns for the Browns now that Cooper is gone is I believe it's Ronnie. What is his name?
On the defense.
Yeah, I know. Ronnie Harrison? Is that Ronnie Hickman? I think it's Ronnie Hickman. Rodney McLeod. That's where I got messed up. Thank you, Spencer. So yeah, Rodney McLeod, the only guy that scored multiple touchdowns on this defense, and maybe that's who you're scared of. Maybe they move him to offense. You know, he's doing so good on defense with the ball in his hands. They got to get a spark. I don't know. It's hard to say you're worried about this Browns offense. I'm worried about their defense for sure.
Yeah.
But this Browns offense has been dragged down by the black hole at quarterback for the entire season. And I think it's gotten to the point that this offense, I don't want to say like they're quiet quitting or whatever, but it is hard to put your body on the line and go through week after week of this terrible, violent sport while you're injured. And that guy is giving you absolutely no shot at quarterback. You look at all the advanced stats. He's down there with Jimmy Clausen and Jamarcus Russell. I saw one with Achilles Smith. It is not good. It is very bad when you're looking at his success rate, his EPA per play. It's a disaster. Now, could he turn it around? Like, and people keep saying every year, oh, well, if he just becomes an average quarterback. Look, if he just becomes a bad quarterback, this offense could be all right. But when he's the worst quarterback in the league, that's not Bryce Young, you don't have a shot.
There's so much I want to say about his quarterback play, but I want the game to happen on Sunday first, and then I'll have that reaction after the game. But I hope the Bengals defense continues to play with confidence, and we continue to see rotation on the defensive line. Some of these guys step up, and maybe that win on Sunday Night Football to show, hey, we've heard enough on defense that we would like to show everybody we can play defense still. And offense, you want to see them bounce back because they didn't have the greatest game against the Giants defense. It's going to be a task. It's always a mismatch when you play Cleveland. You're going to be on the road. They're 1-5 on the season. The Bengals are 2-4. This is a huge game for the Bengals to get back, to stay on track, and for the Cleveland Browns to have something left in their season. So for me, I still think it's going to be a close game. I do think the Cincinnati Bengals are able to win it. It might be sloppy. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. It never is in the AFC North. I don't know why I have confidence, just because I do get a little nervous when they face Cleveland. I just don't know why. I believe in them when they play Kansas City, but then when they play the Browns, I'm like, I don't know. It's always a little crazy. We'll see if they're able to win it. But I'm just going to say pretty low scoring game. The Bengals don't get in the 30s again. I'll say 21-13.
Yeah, I feel similar. I don't know. 24, a little bit more confidence offense. And I do think I know you said who do you have outside of like the obvious guys. I think if an obvious guy does do something, I think it's T. Higgins again. Man, that guy is on a roll. He is so consistent right now. He had a lot of opportunities that were unrealized because of Burrow. in week 1. I think he had a step on Delpit on that slot fade. I think, and obviously Burrow just missed him on that touchdown on the fake screen. So if you can draw stuff up where he's got an opportunity deep down the field, I think he could have the game. But I'll go with 24-17. I think this is not going to be a blowout. I think the Browns find a way to keep this close, whether it's a defensive score, special team score, something. I don't know if it's their offense that's going to be doing a lot of the scoring, but maybe they couldn't get put into good positions because their defense is awesome and Myles Garrett gets a strip sack or something. I think it's going to be a little bit of a slog on this Bengals offense to move the ball if they can't hit their shots and their calculated risks. So we'll see. I'm with you though. I think low 20s for the Bengals and high teens for the Browns.
And if you find a way to win, all wins count the same. So I'd be fine with it. You need an AFC North win. You need to get games in your division. They need an AFC win if they want to stay in all this. And this is the next opportunity for the Cincinnati Bengals. Hopefully they can take advantage. I won't be surprised with either outcome, but I'm really hoping they find a way to get to 3-4 before they take on the Eagles back at home next weekend. Make sure you check out Mike's work over on Bengals Talk. Mike, remind people what's up there right now.
Jordan Battle article, manifesting. That's what I've done almost every week, is manifesting a bigger role for somebody I write about. And it's worked with Chase Brown. It's worked with a few guys. It worked for a tiny bit with the Team Davis Gaither, although it seems like he's back to being a reserve special teamer. Hopefully it works with Jordan Battle. Hopefully he gets more run this week.
I will say this. Let me just make a little hot take since you have a piece on Jordan Battle. Maybe a Jordan Battle big play turnover in this game. Then fans are really going to be wanting them out on the field. So maybe something crazy like that. We'll see what it looks like. Bengals and the Cleveland Browns on the road. They're hoping to advance to 3-4 in the season. And make sure you just follow Mike over on Twitter, Bengals_Sands. You can follow me at LNDS Patterson. Thank you as always for listening too. It's always game day in Cincinnati.